It's kind of like a scary movie colliding with a Hallmark film. There is love, and there is hate, light and darkness. There is a God planning to sacrifice his son. The hero of the story appears to be Satan, I guess. But it's such an amazing love story as well. Despite the child sacrifice and the mental struggles of Satan, Paradise Lost will have you wanting to fall in love.
Maybe you got lost somewhere, swimming too far off the beach.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to The Cause. My name is Rob, and today we're going to be covering books 3 and 4 of Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost is in volume 4 of the Harvard Classic series, and if you have not watched my first video where I cover books 1 and 2, I would highly suggest going and watching that video first. It'll make everything kind of make more sense. Paradise Lost is one of those poems that it's amazing. And the respect I have for Milton just continues to grow as I read through it. It almost saddens me that I'm 37 years old and I'm just experiencing Paradise Lost. As Pops always says, there's no time like the present to solve your problems. So let's go ahead and move into book 3. I will go over the overview real quick and then we will proceed into the poem. Book 3 overview. God sees Satan flying towards his new creation, Earth. He foretells the success of Satan to his son, who is sitting beside him. God explains why this is not going to be his fault. Someone in heaven volunteers to save the human race. Satan spots an angel on Earth, tricks the angel into telling him where the humans are. He then proceeds post-haste to bring evil to Earth. So God looks down and he's looking on all the works from heaven. He sees his new creation just enjoying life and living in the Garden of Eden. When all of a sudden, he then surveyed hell and the gulf between, and Satan there, coasting the wall of heaven on this side of night. So he spots Satan as God appears to be able to see all things that are currently happening. He notices that Satan is getting closer to Earth, so he turns and he speaks to someone. Him God beholding from his prospect high, wherein past, present, future he beholds. Thus to his only son foreseeing spoke. Notice the son who would later be named Jesus, who is sitting beside him. If God beholds the past, present, and future, then we can already see how the Son of God, Jesus, would already be sitting beside him. Time as we know it is not a constraint that God is bound by. In speaking to his son that later becomes Christ, he says, "Only begotten Son, seest thou what rage transports our adversary, whom no bounds prescribed, no bars of hell, nor all the chains heaped on him there, nor yet the main abyss wide interrupt can hold, so bent he seems on desperate revenge, that shall redound upon his own rebellious head." A very important part of the poem is brought up next. In speaking to his son, God foretells what is about to happen next. For man will hearken to his glozing lies, and easily transgress the sole command, sole pledge of his obedience. He is telling his son that man will fall, Adam and his faithless progeny. But whose fault will it be? Whose but his own? Ingrate, he had of me all he could have. I made him just and right, sufficient to have stood, though free to fall. God is not accepting any of the blame. With God's gift of free will comes responsibility. Along with responsibility comes accountability. And accountable he will hold them, as we shall soon see. But also with free will comes honesty. Obedience without free will does not prove anything. Listen to what God is telling his son here. Not free. What proof could they have given sincere, of true allegiance, constant faith, or love, where only what they needs must do appeared, not what they would? What praise could they receive? What pleasure I from such obedience paid? I never really thought about it that way. But proof of love, proof of faith, and sincerity can only come through free will. At this point, God will remove any ambiguity in regards to his responsibility of man's error. They, therefore, as to right belonged, so were created, nor can justly accuse their maker, or their making, or their fate, as if predestination overruled their will, disposed by absolute decree or high foreknowledge. Think about that. What is meant to be cannot overrule free will. He says, they themselves decree their own revolt, not I. If I foreknew, for knowledge had no influence on their fault, which had no less proof certain, unforeknown. He goes on to add one of my favorite lines in the poem so far. Authors to themselves in all, but what they judge and what they choose. For so I formed them free, and free they must remain, till they enthrall themselves. Authors to themselves brings an entire new meaning to the saying, "You're the author of your own life." What you do matters. What you do is rewarded, it can be regretted, and it may even be admired. But what you do has consequences, whether it be good or bad. God's Son at this point has some questions, and he voices them to God. He basically asks, if man should be lost, you love this creation, and you spent so much time creating them. If Satan corrupts them, what is the plan? Are you just going to go and abolish this new creation of yours? And if that's the case, then surely Satan has won a victory. And I notice here that the Son of God is not all-knowing like God is, or he wouldn't be asking these questions. And God replies back in a manner showing love. Man shall not quite be lost, but saved who will, yet not of will in him, but grace in me, freely vouchsafe. Vouchsafe means to grant or freely give. So man is not going to save himself. God, by grace, is going to grant him that privilege freely. But man will never get that privilege back as it was without a cost being paid. Upheld by me, yet once more he shall stand on even ground against his mortal foe. God is going to provide an out, but man will ever be in battle with Satan's evil. It will become a daily battle to persevere against sin and choose the moral path. God does give them a shield to use, though. My umpire conscience, whom, if they will hear, light after light, well used, they shall attain. And I know this may sound like a riddle at this point, but he's saying if you follow that conscience, follow the light, and resist sin, and you will move closer to heaven. Pursuing evil pulls you down, and pursuing good lifts you up. This my long sufferance and my day of grace, they who neglect and scorn shall never taste. Heaven will not be for everybody. It will be something that has to be earned. Man will have to be worthy of God's grace. But he says, yet all is not done. Because of man's disobedience, he with his whole posterity must die. Die he or justice must, unless for him some other, able and as willing, pay the rigid satisfaction, death for death. God asks, where can we find such love here in heaven? Which of ye will be mortal to redeem man's mortal crime, and just the unjust to save? A very similar scenario took place down in hell, when Satan asked who would go on the mission to corrupt earth. Remember, none of his followers came forth, and he had to do it. Something different occurs here. He asked, but all the heavenly choir stood mute, and silence was in heaven on man's behalf. Patron or intercessor, none appeared. That's not good. Surely someone has to step forth. If not, all mankind is lost, and their destination is hell. The Son of God and future inhabitant of earth finally responds. Behold me then, me for him, life for life. I offer, on me let thy anger fall. Account me man, I for his sake will leave thy bosom, and this glory next to thee, freely put off, and for him lastly die. Well pleased, on me let death wreak all his rage. That's the first true sign of love in the poem, at least that I can count. The Son of God is willing to enter earth as a human and die just like man to save them from the evil that will corrupt the world. We will be covering this in Paradise Regained, which is the book after Paradise Lost. But the Son of God says, so heavenly love shall outdo hellish hate. God replies, and he goes into some Revelation-type descriptions on what is to occur. The multitude of angels rejoice at what has just occurred, and heaven is in bliss, that the attack that is about to occur has already been seen, discussed, and corrected. And while all this is going on, Satan is lurking. So on this windy sea of land, the fiend walked up and down alone, bent on his prey. As he is walking, he sees the gates of heaven. He also sees a staircase descending down to this new creation. And standing on the bottom step, he looks down upon earth and sees all of the creation that God has just created. He notices that the sunlight is similar to heaven. And Milton takes the time to describe the world in the most poetic way in Satan's sight. He may be envious, he may be jealous, but he is clearly astonished at what God has created. While looking down, he spots an angel with his back to Satan. The angel would be Uriel, an archangel, one of the 7 closest to God. Needing directions, Satan decides to kind of shapeshift into a cherub and ask for directions. Satan accosts this angel and says, Uriel, bright seraph, tell, in which of all these shining orbs hath man his fixed seat? Or fixed seat that none? But all these shining orbs his choice to dwell, that I may find him, and with secret gaze, or open admiration, him behold. Sneaky, sneaky. But he even pours it on more and glorifies God in a deceitful way. The universal maker we may praise, who justly hath driven out his rebel foes, to deep his tail, and to repair that loss, created this new happy race of men to serve him better. Wise are all his ways. I mean, he's trolling at this point, really just turning up the deception and hate. So disguised and unnoticed by Uriel, so spake the false dissembler, unperceived, for neither man nor angel can discern hypocrisy, the only evil that walks invisible except to God alone. A great line occurs before Uriel replies, and it's a lesson I know that I have learned in the past and I have been caught up in. It goes, while goodness thinks no ill, where no ill seems. Good hearts are often unraveled by the evil ways of others. Uriel then replies back in a very enthusiastic and even proud manner, happy almost that somebody thinks so highly of the works that God has created. He praises God's works for a little bit, and one line just really stuck out to me, and I really enjoyed it. Instead of just saying the moon shone bright in the dark night sky as I would have, listen to how Milton puts it. With borrowed light, her countenance triform, hence fills and empties to enlighten the earth, and in her pale dominion checks the night. Some lines just stick out more than others. Uriel then wraps his speech up with giving the devil what he requested. That spot to which I point is paradise, Adam's abode, those lofty shades his bower. Thy way through canst not mist, me mine requires. Satan wastes no time. He bows low in respect to the deceived angel. He then takes leave and proceeds to the coasts of earth. And this concludes Book 3. Before we move into Book 4 and follow Satan down to earth, I want to tell you about the sponsor of this video, which is Ralston College. Venturing down the path of education does not have to be as dreadful as eating fruit from the tree of knowledge. Ralston offers an opportunity to gain knowledge without angering God in the process. As we see in Paradise Lost, though, nothing good can come without a challenge. You want to choose a school that can test your ability and equip you with the tools needed to achieve whatever it is you desire to pursue in life. Ralston College offers a MA in Humanities. This program includes traveling to Greece for 2 months and studying ancient and modern Greek. Ralston's focus is very classical driven, with a commitment to the great works similar to the ones I cover on this channel. But believe me, they have far more knowledge of these literary works than I do. From reading Homer in actual Greek to sojourning with Dante in hell, Ralston's focus on great literature is unparalleled. They have a very generous scholarship program that ensures that all admitted students can attend, regardless of their financial situation. If time would ever allow, I would love to go back to a school like this and just soak in the experience. But time turns back for no man. But imagine learning Greek and studying the classical works while being surrounded by other like-minded individuals. It fosters an environment that you just can't find anywhere else. I have provided a link below in the description. Please go check out Ralston's website, as they have an extensive amount of information and even some free lectures they release online via their YouTube channel and also through their podcast. I've been listening to it for quite a while now. Jonathan Paggio is on there sometimes and many others. I really want to thank Ralston for sponsoring this video. Keeping Western culture and tradition alive is something that is more important than ever nowadays. I support the mission Ralston has embarked upon, and I want nothing more than to see them succeed. Again, Ralston's information can be found in the description below. Applications will be opening back up for next semester soon, so feel free to reach out to them and ask them any questions you may have. Before we journey back to Earth and meet Adam and Eve, you may want to take some time and just go down and visit the link, because human life is about to change forever. With that being said, let's move into Book 4, and I'll give you a quick overview of what's going on. Satan touches down on Earth, and filled with some doubt, he debates what he is doing. He sits in the tree of life in the garden and hears Adam and Eve talking. An angel realizes he has messed up and lets Satan in. Gabriel, the archangel, enters the scene. Adam and Eve are in love, just frolicking around nude in nature. Satan catches Eve in bed and starts to whisper in her ear. Angels come and thwart the plan. Let's begin. The poem starts out with a clear setting of where we stand. Woe to the inhabitants on earth, that now, while time was, our first parents had been warned, the coming of their secret foe, and happily so scaped his mortal snare. For now Satan, now first inflamed with rage, came down, the tempter, ere the accuser of mankind, to wreak on innocent frail man his loss. Satan is on his way to earth, on the path to snare the human race. But something is boiling inside of him. Doubt. Horror and doubt distract his troubled thoughts, and from bottom stir the hell within him. Satan is not just fighting an external battle. He's also fighting an internal battle at this point. He says something next that makes you realize that Satan, at least in the poem, has a hell that he carries inside of him. Is it regret, doubt, envy, disappointment? See what you think. Now conscience wakes despair that slumbered, wakes the bitter memory of what he was, what is, and what must be. Worse, of worse deeds, worse sufferings must ensue. He looks down on Eden, and the poem says his face is sad. This is a good depiction of the evil I feel we face in life. Deep down in all of us, evil resides. There are battles we fight, and we must wrestle against the temptations to commit these evil acts. It is in the choosing that we win these battles, the choosing of good over evil. Satan appears to be battling those same thoughts and feelings. Let's see what he decides to choose as he speaks. But with no friendly voice, and add thy name, O Son, to tell thee how I hate thy beams, that bring to my remembrance from what state I fell, how glorious once above thy sphere, till pride and worse ambition threw me down, warring in heaven against heaven's matchless king. He appears to be going through all these cycles of emotions before committing to the deed. He's doubting, he's showing regret, he is seeing that warring with God was probably wrong, and it may have even been glorious up there before pride and ambition took over him. But to follow through with a decision, we sometimes reason with anger. Or to remove the accountability, we sometimes shift the blame to someone else and cloak ourselves with the mentality of victim. He says God created him this way. But listen as pride creeps back into the picture. In that bright eminence, and in with his good, upbraided none, nor was his service hard. What could be less than to afford him praise, the easiest recompense, and pay him thanks? How do, yet all his good proved ill to me, and wrought but malice. It does not matter how much you provide or how good you are to some people. Like Satan, it will not be enough. Power is what he wanted, to be a step above God, his creator. Imagine the ambition, the pride, the ego, and the resentment that he must have had to actually act on those feelings. Anger at this point is bringing his power back, and fueled by his ego, he lets us know that there is no good in Satan. We caught a glimpse that maybe, just maybe, he could have the ability to change his course of action. The next line is good. Which way shall I fly? Infinite wrath or infinite despair? Which way I fly is hell. Myself am hell, and in the lowest deep a lower deep, still threatening to devour me, opens wide, to which the hell I suffer seems a heaven. Sin can feel good, it can taste good, it can be pretty, it can make you feel like you are living in a heaven which is only a mask. What lies behind the mask of all these sins is the hell that you are truly living in, and that can be hard to admit. I say admit because we all know. Satan is saying it out loud. I honestly love the wording of what Satan says next. Milton fabulously stitched this together, and the more I read it, the more I kind of see it in the world. In misery, such joy ambition finds. But say I could repent, and could obtain, by act of grace my former state, how soon would height recall high thoughts, how soon unsay what feigned submission swore, ease would recant, vows made in vain, as violent and void. For never can true reconciliation grow where wounds of deadly hate have pierced so deep, which would lead me to a worse relapse and heavier fall. The honesty here is what I find intriguing. He is not even pretending like he could ever serve God again because of the pain of all the emotions that are inside of him. It's too great. Satan wraps it up with a clear message. So farewell hope, and with hope, farewell fear. Farewell remorse, all good to me is lost. Evil, be thou my good. Man is about to experience the powers of Satan, and he is about to make his presence known. But Uriel, the archangel, is looking back down on earth, but he sees that Satan is not the cute little cherub that he spoke to earlier. It's something else. Uriel realizes that something evil has passed him, and he remembers the prophecy that God had spoken about evil entering the earth and corrupting man. Uriel has just become a spoke in the wheel of the prophecy that's moving full steam ahead. As Satan approaches paradise, the poem describes the scene in vivid detail with copious amounts of similes. Satan, like a spy or an assassin, is just kind of creeping around, reconning the area, so to speak. There is a part in the poem that really stuck out to me. While Satan is sneaking around, he flies up into the tree of life, and the poem says, there he sat, devising death, like a bird of prey. The irony there is so blatant that it kind of throws you off for a second. Sitting on the tree of life, planning death, and just looking out over Eden, he notices another tree. Our death, the tree of knowledge, grew fast by. Knowledge of good, brought dear by knowing ill. Satan then spots the godlike humans, and Milton does a spectacular job of describing the scene that Satan is witnessing. Adam and Eve's appearance, the landscape, the animals. You can taste the sweet nectarines and you can smell the aromatic flowers in the air. Satan is just sitting there, taking it all in. It's a better spot than hell. Satan then stands up and he starts to speak. "O hell, what do mine eyes with grief behold?" He appears to be taken back at the godlike beauty of the humans. Maybe a sense of jealousy here of the creation that has kind of taken his place. "Ah, gentle pair, ye little think how nigh your change approaches, when all these delights will vanish and deliver ye to woe." There is a line here that I almost missed the importance of, and it was only after going back and working on this video that I actually caught it. Satan says, "The hell that I am about to unleash on earth was not created by me. It was created by my maker. And because of that, he is going to freely give it in return." See what you think, and let me know if you agree with what I concluded, as I may have been misreading it. "That I with you must dwell, or you with me, henceforth, my dwelling haply may not please, like this fair paradise your sense. Yet such, except your maker's work, he gave it to me, which I as freely give. Hell shall unfold, to entertain you to her widest gates." Satan shapeshifts into an animal, and he slowly moves over to where Adam and Eve are sitting, and a love story commences. Pour yourself a glass of wine, snuggle up to your loved one, because Milton is about to mix horror with Hallmark. Let's go see what these two lovebirds are up to. "Sole partner, and sole part of all these joys, dearer thyself than all, needs must the power that made us, and for us, this ample world." These two are passionately in love, living in bliss and just hanging out in paradise. They mention a tree, and they kind of confirm what most of us will already be aware of. They discuss the fruit in paradise and how wonderful it is, but there is this one tree, this one fruit, that they cannot touch. The fruit on the tree of knowledge, which is next to the tree of life. He says something here that is important. "From us no other service than to keep this one, this easy charge of all the trees in paradise that bear delicious fruit, so various, not to taste that only tree of knowledge planted by the tree of life. So near grows death to life, whatever death is. God has pronounced it death to taste from the tree of knowledge." In rearranging a line from Shakespeare, there is no such thing as life or death, but knowledge of makes it so. It is insinuated that Adam is unsure of why this is, and he's kind of unclear what death is. Eve speaks next, and she recounts her own creation from Adam's rib. Milton will paint her in a non-flattering light here. From looking in a pool of water and being struck by her own beauty, we start to see the traits of Narcissus in her. Now, Satan is hearing these two in love speaking, and he's horrified, he's jealous, he's tormented, but the love story just continues, and I'll sip to this steamy passage. "And meek surrender, half embracing leaned on our first father. Half her swelling breast, naked met his, under the flowing gold of her loose tresses hid. He in delight, both of her beauty and submissive charms, smiled with superior love, as Jupiter on Juno smiles when he impregns the clouds that shed May flowers, and pressed her matron lip with kisses pure. Aside the devil turned, for envy, yet with jealous leer malign, eyed them askance, and to himself thus plained." Satan is not happy, but Adam and Eve are hot and happy in love. The contrast between Satan and man right now is on two opposite ends of the spectrum. Satan then lets us know what he thinks of this public display of affection. He replies, "Sight hateful, sight tormenting. Thus these two imparadised in one another's arms." He is disgusted, but he heard them say something about a tree. "Yet let me not forget what I have gained. From their own mouths, all is not theirs, it seems. One fatal tree there stand, of knowledge called, forbidden them to taste. Knowledge forbidden, suspicious, reasonless. Why should their Lord envy them that? Can it be sin to know? Can it be death? And do they only stand by ignorance?" Those are some very good questions Satan is bringing up. Are Adam and Eve obedient out of love or ignorance? The concept of knowing is something to ponder. Knowledge has the power to change why you love, who you love, and what you can be affectionate to. Satan says, what a fair foundation that has been laid for him to build their ruin. Hence I will excite their minds with more desire to know and to reject envious commands invented with design to keep them low, whom knowledge might exalt equal with God's. Satan is looking at it from his point of view. I feel he is calling out God for keeping this from them as a fault. But what if it is out of love? After all, Satan's mind is subjugated with ambition and power. He goes on to say that he needs to finish spying out the area. What further would be learned? Live while ye may, yet happy pair. Enjoy till I return. Short pleasures, for long woes are to succeed. While Satan is roaming Earth in recon mode, Uriel is in fast retreat back to heaven where he finds Gabriel, an angel of God. He basically tells him what happened and he is honest. Satan came disguised, I spilled the beans on where the humans resided, and he is there now, plotting his campaign to ruin Earth. So the angels all make haste to intercept Satan. Now at this point, Adam and Eve are laying down and they're chatting. We have already kind of sensed a glimpse of what Milton is doing with Eve's character in the poem, but it really starts to shine clear here. There is obedience, but there is also questions she is raising, why things are the way they are. In speaking to Adam, my author and disposer, what thou biddest, unargued, I obey. So God ordains. God is thy law, thou mine. To know no more is woman's happiest knowledge, and her praise. The less a servant knows, the better they can serve. And there is a strict hierarchy confirmed here. She then speaks about all the amazing things on earth, but then looks up at the stars. And like myself, and probably most of us, she starts to wonder, but wherefore all night long shine these? For whom this glorious sight, when sleep hath shut all eyes? Humans have always been inquisitive. We want to know what is beyond what we have the ability to know. Milton will compare the beauty of Eve to Pandora, which he is weaving in the Greek culture in light threads into his poem. And at this point, things are about to get a little heated, and not in the way you may think, because it's baby-making time. Straight side by side were laid, nor turned, I ween, Adam from his fair spouse, nor Eve the rights, mysterious of connubial love, refused. Nobody's saying no tonight, it appears. I mean, what more could you want from an epic poem? You have Satan warring with God. You have two clueless humans passionately intermingled with one another. All the while, angels are in haste to save, and Satan creeps to destroy, or hops is more like it. You see, while Gabriel is sending angels out to look for Satan, they find him disguised as a toad whispering in Eve's ear, as she is asleep, a saying by his devilish art to reach the organs of her fancy, and with them forge illusions, as he lists phantasms and dreams. Right after this passage, you have to read it and see what you think. He mentions inspiring venom. He may taint the animal's spirits, and that from pure blood arise evil things. Is he talking about seducing her sexually? It would kind of be like the portraits of hell, but bearing evil into the world. Luckily, whatever he was trying to do here, he was thwarted by Uriel, an angel of God. Satan the toad jumps up and turns back into Satan, and Uriel asks, what demon from hell are you? Listen to Satan's shocked reply. Know ye not then? Said Satan, filled with scorn. Know ye not me? Ye knew me once, no mate. For sure there sitting where ye durst now soar, not to know me argues yourselves unknown, the lowest of your throng. His ego is responding. He is offended that they didn't recognize him. Who would not know the warrior that battled against God and lived to tell about it? And surely if you don't know who I am, then you must be a nobody. Zephan, another angel of the Lord, replied back to him and basically reminded him how great he was back then. But now look at you. Your looks are evil and of hate, and you've become a nobody to us. Abashed, the devil stood, and felt how awful goodness is, and saw virtue in her shape, how lovely, saw and pined his loss. As Satan is looking down at Eve, Zephan has him thinking, what truly have I done to be here? But not for long. Satan replies back that if he has to contend, it's not because of this lowly angel, but the one who sends him. Satan is angry, he's kind of embarrassed, he's been caught, he's jealous, he's in a rage and his plans have been thwarted. Gabriel, the powerful angel of God, finally shows up, and he kind of seems ready for battle. He asks Satan, why on earth would you leave the place you've been assigned? And Satan replies back, are you stupid? Gabriel, thou hast in heaven the esteem of wise, and such I held thee. But this question asked puts me in doubt. Lives there who loves his pain? Who would not, finding way, break loose from hell? He says, wouldn't you as well? Satan is just so condescending to everyone, and his egotism comes out in every encounter. Gabriel replies, and at the end of his response, he kind of mocks Satan with questions that I've kind of had up until this point as well. But wherefore thou alone? Wherefore with thee came not all hell broke loose? Is pain to them less pain, less to be fled? or thou than they, less hardy to endure? Where are Satan's followers? God at this point is working with a team. Uriel, Gabriel, and the others. Satan answers why he is alone, and Gabriel responds with something that I think is important to the poem. Milton seems to weave politics into the poem at this point between liberty and the monarch. O sacred name of faithfulness profaned. Faithful to whom? To thy rebellious crew? Army of fiends? Fit body to fit head? Was this your discipline and faith engaged? Your military obedience? To dissolve? Allegiance to the acknowledged power supreme? And thou, sly hypocrite, who now wouldst seem patron of liberty, who more than thou, once fond and cringed, and servilely adored heaven's awful monarch. Milton is writing this poem on many levels. There is the storyline, there is the lessons, there is the politics, and then there are all the hidden meanings behind things. And I'm sure there are patterns, symbols, and hidden things in the poem that, even till now, Milton only knows about. At this point, Gabriel and his angels start to surround Satan. They're about to bag and tag him and put him in chains and drag him back to hell. But Satan is not having it. And I love the way Milton described this. Listen here. In these he put two weights, the sequel, each of parting and a fight. The latter quick up flew and kicked the beam. As he is flying away, Gabriel says, but why run? You get your power from the same place I do. It's all in vain. You cannot win. When Satan fled, the shades of night passed with him. And thus concludes the fourth book out of the 12. Such an amazing scene. We get to meet Adam and Eve again in book 5, and we get to see what Eve thinks of the night she just had. We also get to meet a few new angels of God, and new questions are asked. So I hope you join me in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed books 3 and 4 of Paradise Lost. We have 8 more books to go through, and I'm excited to see how this all unfolds. Please take the time to read this poem. It's simply amazing, and it will most definitely expand your reading ability. There is an audio version on Audible, and the narrator is amazing with the reflection in his voice and anger. It's nice to hear the names pronounced correctly and the use of the older language. I will link the Audible version below, as I am reading them physically first, but then also listening to them afterwards. If you want to purchase coffee, link is always in the description below. You could use the code THECAUSE for 15% off your first order. All these videos can be found in podcast form. I have those linked below in the description if you want to listen that way. Please don't forget to check out Ralston College, drink some amazing coffee, read some amazing books, and I will see you next week as we move into books 5 and 6, Paradise Lost. I love you all. Stay blessed. Thank you.
I was making lots of noise, busking on the city streets. I came back from Brooklyn, but you didn't come back for me.